Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about Bill Clinton's second term as president. So our essential questions say, name 3 technological innovations that become part of everyday life during Clinton's second term. Dole really had no chance in arguing that Clinton was a tax and spend liberal. That's what was really the reality in regards to the economy at the time. And how did the House of Reps handle the Lewinsky scandal? How did the Senate handle it? And what was the outcome of the impeachment charges against Clinton? Okay, so we're going to start with his second term. So this time period, says during this time period from 97 to 2001, the U.S. enjoyed the longest peacetime economic expansion in history. All right. The next election is going to occur in 2000, and you'll see why in 2001 there's no longer this peacetime economic expansion, but Clinton's going to be president for most of this time. Okay, it says technological innovations in computers, the internet, and wireless communications fueled an increase in national productivity. Here you have the rise of Steve Jobs as we know him with Apple computers. He's been in business for a long time. I'm going to show you some really old photos in a second. Bill Gates of Microsoft. These two guys, Jobs and Gates, become household names during this period. Email, e-commerce, so people buying online and selling, and cell phones become part of everyday life. So I was in college during this time, and I can tell you that I remember going to college and there really was no internet, and while I was there, it came to be, and it was really, really cool thing, we thought, to be able to send messages online to other people. At that time, we really weren't that great with attaching things or, all the millions of things that we do online today. And as I mentioned down here, buying and selling, shopping online really was not, when I was in college, it had not quite gotten there yet. This will be a little bit later. Cell phones, I did not have a cell phone until I was probably maybe a sophomore in college, and I had a bag phone, which was this huge phone that you put in your car, and it charged from your car, and you didn't take it out of your car, it just stayed in there. So if you needed to call somebody in your car, and it was as big as a cell phone at home would be. It's probably bigger actually. People didn't have personal cell phones until about 2000, 2001. You saw more people with them. Okay, just everyday folks. Some pictures I want to show you. This is the Apple computer that I grew up on, and this is the Apple that Chatham County Schools had all the kids on. It's called a 2E, and you can see here it is, Apple 2E. And this was the floppy drive, and it literally had a floppy disk, which I'll show you in a second, that you would save things on. And this is how you turn the power on. And it had no other color but this horrible green. Okay? I spent a lot of hours on those things at J.S. Waters. And then, of course, my dad taught at Central, so he had one at Chatham Central. When I had to go over there with him, I would play on the computer. Oregon Trail, that was my favorite thing. There were very few games. Here is a floppy disk. So you would save things in these floppy disks, and they were floppy, like a paperback book. And the bad part was you had to keep up with it. So, you would write on here what you had put on the disk, and you had to keep up with the disk. And this is going to be replaced by hard disks, which I come across in college. So by the time I'm in college, folks use these types of disks, and Windows had come about at that point. So not everyone was using Apple. All right, so that's that. I want to talk to you about the election of '96. So as the campaign started in '96, Clinton takes credit for this booming economy. And as well as unemployment and inflation fall to its lowest levels in 40 years. And unfortunately, when things fall apart in his presidency later, in the scandals that happened, folks sort of forget this. So this was a huge thing for him to take credit for, having such prosperity during his presidency and very little unemployment, and yet it's kind of overshadowed by all the scandal. The Republicans are going to nominate Senator Bob Dole of Kansas to run against Clinton, who was the Democratic incumbent. And Perot, once again, runs, this time part of the Reform Party, which he created. So it was really Senator Dole of Kansas, who was a World War II vet, older gentleman, versus President Clinton. And it says Dole tried to portray Clinton as this tax and spend liberal, that he raises taxes, he spends a lot of money, which wasn't entirely false, but it just didn't work because the economy was doing so well up here. Unemployment was so low, people just didn't buy into Dole's argument. Clinton wins 49% of the vote with 379 electoral votes. Dole only got 41% with 159 votes. Perot does get 8.4, but no electoral votes at all. And I'm not sure if I do have a picture. I wanted to specifically, I'll put this picture in there to show you Elizabeth Dole. Not really Bob, but here's Bob Dole. This is at the convention, the Republican convention. This is Elizabeth Dole. I just want to show her to you because she is a native North Carolinian and would later be our senator in Washington, D.C. Okay, so that's that. Let's get to some investigations. All right, so Whitewater. This is probably the first scandal that comes about in the Clinton administration. And it's really complex, and I'll show you a slide about that in a second. But it says Congress investigated President Clinton and his wife, Hillary, and other cabinet members for arranging illegal loans for a Whitewater development, which was an Arkansas real estate company, while he was governor. So all this with Whitewater happens while he's governor, but it comes out when he's president. The Clintons are never charged with any illegal activity, but they are investigated, and of course that's all over the news. It plagues the White House. What I wanted to show you is this, which gives an explanation, sort of, and it's kind of complex, but basically it's a real estate issue from when President Clinton was governor. The Clintons partnered with James and Susan McDougal to purchase 220 acres of land in Arkansas to become the Whitewater Development Corporation. The venture failed, and the McDougals entered into the banking industry, started another real estate investment business, and then started doing some things that federal regulators started watching them for. When Clinton was president, an independent investigation found he pressured a supporter into making a loan that benefited him and McDougal Savings and Loan Corporation. So he was pressuring, politically pressuring people to give money once he had this presidency, supposedly, into giving money to support his other ventures. Okay, but most of it occurred when he was governor. All right, I also want to show you, this was the cover of Time magazine at the time, Deep Water. This is George Stephanopoulos. And here is President Clinton, how the president's men tried to hinder the Whitewater investigation. The Clintons are never known for fully cooperating. And that's coming out here with this Whitewater investigation. Okay, so I also want to go on to what you're probably more familiar with, which is the Monica Lewinsky scandal. All right, so President Clinton had been accused by lots of women of having affairs over the years. Jennifer Flowers is one that comes to mind. There were lots of women. In '98, a new scandal occurred, and this was that Clinton had had a personal relationship with a White House intern named Monica Lewinsky. She was in fact 22 years old, and President Clinton's daughter was not that much younger than Miss Lewinsky. So some evidence suggested he had lied under oath about the relationship. So let's just be real clear. He does end up having a sexual relationship with her, but that's not the issue. And a lot of people blew that out of proportion, saying he should be impeached for that. And in fact, the Constitution obviously does not point to anything related to the president's extramarital affairs or lack thereof. So it doesn't get into his personal business. But it does say, he's to uphold the Constitution. And of course, the president cannot perjure himself or lie under oath. So he claimed that he had not had a relationship with her. An independent counsel had been appointed by the government, so not partisan, supposedly. His name was Kenneth Starr, a lawyer, and he was supposed to investigate. He alleged that Clinton had this relationship with her beginning November of 95 to April of 97. And then a co-worker of Lewinsky's, her name was Linda Tripp, had been secretly taping phone conversations between herself and Lewinsky. And Lewinsky was telling all about these extramarital affairs that she was having with President Clinton, or at least on his part, extramarital. And she was not married. And so Linda Tripp tapes these conversations and hands them over to Starr. All right, so on January 26, President Clinton denies that he had any kind of relationship with her and went under oath also on the same day. And Hillary Clinton claimed it was a right-wing conspiracy. I'll show you all of that. Clinton appears before Starr's grand jury later, August 17th, and admits that he did have a relationship with Lewinsky that was not appropriate and was wrong. The House votes to impeach him because of the perjury, lying under oath, and obstruction of justice because, as I mentioned, the Clintons generally don't cooperate well with authorities. In the Senate, you have to have a 2/3 vote. And to find the president guilty, which would mean impeachment. And only 45 voted in favor. So Chief Justice William Rehnquist declared that President Clinton was acquitted of all charges. So some folks argue he was impeached. He was impeached technically through the House, but not the Senate. He wasn't fully impeached. He was not removed from office. So he emerges with his presidency badly damaged because of that. Okay. And I'll tell you what, I'll do the rest of this and I'll go to the video. Madeleine Albright, though, on the good side, is the first female who becomes Secretary of State, and she does so under the watch of President Clinton. And I'll show you a picture of her. President Clinton has to deal with some foreign affair issues in Haiti. There was a military coup in Haiti. And also Slobodan Milosevic, who was the Serbian dictator, horrible person, is going to carry out a lot of armed conflicts, using ethnic cleansing, which is down here, to kill thousands of ethnic and religious minorities in Bosnia, okay, and he's Serbian. And we actually send in troops to Bosnia. We're part of the NATO, and NATO came about after World War II. So we're going to send troops over to Bosnia and Kosovo to stop some of this bloodshed and ethnic cleansing. And let me just show you really quick Madeleine Albright. Here she is, First Lady, Secretary of State. And here's President Clinton with the troops in Bosnia, which is what we would say is Yugoslavia, Southern Europe. Now, let me show you, this was the famous picture that came out. Here's President Clinton campaigning, and here's Monica Lewinsky. And this was all over the news once it broke that they were having a relationship, that he had obviously known her before that. Here she is on the cover of Time magazine, My Story, okay, which, she didn't volunteer in the beginning. Again, her conversations have been taped and were leaked. I do want you to see this. This is President Clinton giving his side.
I teach people to change their diets in order to help prevent disease. Walden helped prepare me in what I do.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie. Not a single time. Never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you. Responsibility for all my actions, both public and private.
This was in August.
And that is why I'm speaking to you tonight. As you know, in a deposition in January, I was asked questions about my relationship with Monica Lewinsky. While my answers were legally accurate, I did not volunteer information. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Ms. Lewinsky that was not appropriate. fact, it was wrong.
Okay, so that's that.